If someone was to ask you why Christianity itself is worth considering, what would you say to them in most simplistic terms?
Well, I'd say let's start with the resurrection of Jesus. Jesus, while on earth, claimed to be some really a special guy. He claimed to be chosen by God to usher in his kingdom. He claimed to be God's uniquely divine son, and he claimed to provide the way of salvation. So when you make claims like that, your critics are going to ask you for some evidence, and rightly so. And Jesus responded that the evidence he would provide is his resurrection. And so if Jesus rose from the dead, I like to say it's game, set, match. Christianity is true, period. If Jesus did not rise from the dead, we need to find something else because Christianity is a false religion. Jesus was a false prophet, and we should just abandon him. Um, so you look at the evidence for the resurrection. Now, I like what Gary Habermas came up with, the minimal facts approach, because I don't have to get into a lot of detail with it. I just go with and say, look, especially if I'm talking to a skeptic and say, look, whether a Christian, atheist, agnostic, Jewish scholar, they're going to disagree on a lot of things. So let's just, in order to eliminate bias as much as possible, let me just name a few facts that virtually all agree on. So Jesus died by crucifixion. Shortly after, a number of his followers had experiences they believed, they were convinced, were appearances of the risen Jesus to them. Most, though not nearly all, but most critical scholars grant that some of these experiences occurred to groups who thought that Jesus had appeared to them within their group setting. And then there was a skeptic who persecuted the church named Paul, who also had an experience he was convinced was the risen Jesus appearing to him. And it radically transformed his life from being a persecutor of the church to one of its most able defenders. Now, what we must do as historians is look and formulate a variety of hypotheses that attempt to account for these facts that are agreed upon by so many scholars from different theological and philosophical viewpoints. And when we do that, the resurrection hypothesis is the only one that can account adequately for those data. And thus, as a historian, I think we can say the resurrection probably occurred. We can't get into a time machine, so we can't, as historians at least, say it certainly occurred, but I think the evidence suggests that it probably occurred.